I'll now go to Mr. Krem for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for being here today. Dr. Wark, can you just explain in lay terms why a Chinese state-owned enterprise would want to acquire yet another lithium supplier when they already refine 80% of the world's lithium?
Thank you for the question. It's a fascinating question, probably best directed in a way at Zijin Mining. I would say that, which is the company that has acquired Neo Lithium for a $1 billion price tag. One of the things that's interesting about Zijin Mining, if you look at the company's corporate history, is that it began as a gold miner in China. It expanded overseas, principally in gold and other base metal extractions. The Neo Lithium takeover by Zijin, to the best of my knowledge from the available public documentation on Zijin, is the first such acquisition that it's made. And I'm presuming, I can't speak for the company's directors and owners and whatever passes for shareholders in a Chinese SOE context, I'm presuming that they looked at, and they did do their due diligence on the Argentinian mine, which is recorded in the Neo Lithium public documents on the transaction. I'm presuming simply that they looked at that asset, thought about the future, thought about how they wanted to position themselves as a global miner, and as a potential future Chinese industrial champion, as the Chinese strategy has it, and thought that that was a terrifically important acquisition for them. The question for me, I must say, is if we're going to think about foreign direct investment in a national security and economic security strategy, we also have to do what is in intelligence terms known as a net assessment, which essentially means you think about your own interest in this investment, and you also think about why is a foreign company also interested in this investment? And I hope, and perhaps this is a question for officials when they appear tomorrow, I hope some due consideration was given to that very question, which I think is implicit in your question. Thank you.
And again, with Dr. Wark, if this is clearly part of their long-term strategy, can you think of any good reason why this would not trigger a national security review on our end?
I'm afraid, Sir and Chair, I cannot think of any good reason. And that's not to prejudge the outcome of a national security review, but it is to say that this was a sensitive acquisition on political and economic terms that needed, I think, really considered judgment, not a rush to judgment in a 45-day period.
Okay. And Dr. Wark, in your presentation, you mentioned that less than 1% of investment filings have been subject to a national security review. And also in the ICA report, it was pointed out that the majority of these reviews involved acquisitions by Chinese entities. So I have a two-part question. Why are so few national security reviews done? And why, of the ones that are done, is China so overrepresented?
Thank you for the question. Excellent question. I'm not sure I have a good answer for you as to why we have failed to do very many national security reviews in the past. I think the best answer I can give to that is that it wasn't part of the tradition. It wasn't part of the way in which we thought about foreign direct investment. We wanted to maintain an image for Canada as a country open to foreign direct investment, which we saw as important to our economic prosperity. And although that still holds, but what has changed is the geopolitical and economic security environment in which we now operate. So whatever our past calculations in that regard, I think we have to take a different approach in future. And it is also, I must say, to be fair to officials involved, it is a resource-intensive and very complex undertaking to come up with an appropriate intelligence assessment on these investments. And I think, to be frank, Canada has not invested a lot of resources in what I would call economic intelligence. That hasn't been a priority for our intelligence community. We may need to pivot to that enterprise, more appropriately in the future. But I don't think we have a lot of resources that we can devote to that at the moment.
Okay.